and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I'm going to start off today and show you some of the signs that you read when you're playing music. And they're not hard signs to learn. When you're familiar with them, it makes music a lot more understandable. So we have dynamics. Dynamics is whether you're playing loud, very loud, soft, very soft, medium loud, or whatever. Dynamics is basically what you do in terms of loudness and softness of the music, and there are symbols for that. Then you have the speed and the tempo. Those are other kinds of symbols which we'll also get into. And of course, in the music, sometimes the music is marked, and I don't usually mark my music, and a lot of people who publish music don't. You can figure out how fast and soft it's supposed to be or how fast and slow it's supposed to be. So let's take this up. Dynamics, F. If you see F above a staff, that means play it loud, loud and strong. If you see a double F, you play it louder still, and that's called fortissimo. That's the way it's pronounced. It's an Italian word, which means very loud. Now, I have seen music at level 3 Fs, you know, 3 Fs or 4 Fs, which is really as loud as you can get. Most of the time, you're going to either see a single F or 2 Fs, occasionally a third F, but it means louder and louder and louder. Now, MF means mezzo forte. Now, that means half loud. In other words, you know, you're kind of loud. You're not loud to the extreme, but you are somewhat loud. So it's kind of medium loud in the range here. Now, the P stands for piano, and that means soft. If you get a double P, that's pianissimo, which is the opposite of fortissimo, pianissimo, very soft. And I have seen a third P, that's about as soft as you can get. Now, DC da capo means from the beginning. If you have a song and it has DC at the end of it, it means go back up from at the beginning of the song to play it over again. I'll be showing you this as we go along because I've written music with these signs in them so you'll have an understanding of them. If you see a DS, that's dal segno, DS dal segno, that means repeat it from the sign. What does the sign look like? Well, this isn't a perfect rendition, but it's like an S with some dots in it. Sometimes you have a straight line in it too, but that's basically like an S, and that means DSL fine. When it says DSL fine, what it means is go back to the sign and go to the end of the song. How do you know when you're at the end of the song? There will be fine written out, and you know that's the end of the song. I'm going to be showing you this, but I want to kind of show you this in advance. So DC del capo, go to the beginning of the song and play it again. DS means go back to wherever the sign is and then play it until the end of the song, which will be marked with the word fine. Now, fine is spelled F-I-N-E, like fine, but it's not pronounced fine. It's pronounced fine. And let's see, DSL fine. Now, if you get a mark, and this will be in the beginning of the music, MM with a quarter note equals 60 or equals 40 or equals 70, whatever it is, that is a metronome marking. That's what that stands for, metronome marking. And it tells you how fast it's going to go. If you have a metronome, I bring one in, but I don't own one. I don't ever use them. But a metronome is a little device that tells you how fast your music is going. And now if it says MM with a quarter note equals 60, that's 60 beats per minute. And when you set it to 60, it will go tick, tick tock, and let you know exactly what each beat is worth, because it'll be going exactly what that is. Now, some people use metronomes a lot, especially beginning students, because they don't know what 60 beats a minute means, or what 60 beats, 70 beats, or whatever it is, but they can listen to it 1, 2, 3, 4, and it tells them, and they play it that way. But you don't want to ever become dependent on it, because music is going to go faster and slower and louder and softer throughout a piece. It usually doesn't stay the same all the way across the piece. You get tempo changes. Tempo means time. That relates to whether it's fast or whether it's soft, or fast or whether it's slow. And you get words like poco a poco. I don't have that on here, but poco a poco means a little bit at a time. If you're going to go loud, there's a symbol for that, and we'll get into that when we get to it. And there's symbols for making it softer, and it may say poco a poco. So it gets louder gradually, it gets softer gradually, poco a poco. That just means little by little. Now, it's interesting that some of the words that we use in music are the same words that we use in our English language, but they don't necessarily mean the same thing. If we go and have a DC, DC da capo, and we go from the beginning, so there's sometimes no DC marked in the beginning, but what it means is go back to the beginning. So you don't really need a sign for that. You know where you're going, because that's inherent in the definition of what that DC means. But you might get a little word called refrain. Now, in our English language, refrain means to stop from doing something. I'll refrain from having that extra cup of coffee. I'll refrain from buying too much candy, or whatever it is. But refrain in music means that you're playing a melody again, and you'll see that. Now, as we go along, I'm going to show all of that to you, but just so that you know, the metronome marking indicates tempo. You know what the repeat signs are. We've already gone over that. This would be when you go back, and then and you go back to that. So the dots are in opposite directions. This would be when you're going back someplace, and then you go back to that sign. And this is the DS, the sign. Similar. Now, professional music, and when they use the printers and all of that, they get it more refined than what I can draw it. But basically, I've got it. So those are the dynamics. Now, what I want to do, there's one more thing that I want to show you before we play a song, and that's this keyboard right here. I do these little posters, sometimes not so little. Here is a keyboard. I think I'm going to have to take this off to balance this on, because I don't think it'll stay if I don't do that. So we're going to put this on for a moment, and we're going to hope that it stays. That's a full keyboard. In other words, I've got 88 keys on this. They're small and all of that, but this is a full keyboard, and it's actually a little wider than what the monitor shows it to be. So up here, which you can't see, I'll push it. Let me see how I can do that. You see how far? Well, let me push it the other way. I just basically want it to stay in, so maybe you don't need to see the whole thing. This would be the highest part right here. And then when I pull it down to the bottom, that's the lowest part. We're getting to it. Is right there. There are 88 keys here. The reason I want to show you that is usually when I show you a keyboard, I usually do it for 2 or 3 octaves. So this is an octave. This is the second octave up. So this is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's one octave. And a lot of instruments only play to that one octave. But the recorders, Sassoon flutes, regular flutes, they all go another octave above. They go to here. So when I show you a keyboard, I'm not going to probably show you the whole thing as I have here. I'm going to show you from this C here up to about this C, or maybe this C here. That would be a 3-octave range. Why do I do that? Well, it just saves a lot of space. It's a lot easier to say this is a low C. This C here is called a low C or a middle C. And I know I've done this before, but it bears repeating. The low C is about as low as all the woodwinds can get. Most woodwinds cannot get past that low C. There are 2 or 3 exceptions I can think of, but they don't get very low beyond it. The saxophone can get to the B flat, which is right here. The clarinets can get down in this range here. But for the most part, the flute, the regular flute, all of the little flutes like recorders, which are melody flutes basically, the tonettes, song flutes, flutophones, all those kinds of instruments, they can't, and the recorder itself, of course, they can't get below this note. This note is called the low C for them because they can't get any lower. But when I show you the low C and I show you a keyboard with a low C, remember, or try to remember, there's a lot of notes below it, but woodwinds can't play it. And when we play the B, C, D, E, F, G, this kind of, where are we? We're right in this range right here. B, C, D, E. This would be the high C right here. The beauty of this chart is the fact that I have the notes on the keyboard lined up with the notes on the staff. This is middle C or low C right here, and it's this note right here. It's almost to the middle of the instrument. Not really, not exactly in the middle, but it's close to the middle. It's as close as you can get to, for a C to be toward the middle. Then this is the note for the D, and this is where it is on the keyboard. This is the E, and this is where it is on the keyboard. This is the F, it's right here on the keyboard. This is the G, this is the A, this is the B, and this is the C. That's 1 octave. Low C to what I call the mid-range C is right here. And then this would be for the flutophone, a really high. I mean, we can do those notes. I've shown you D, and then E, F, G. It's hard to get the A, B, and C, but it can be done. By the time you get to the C, this is high C, and it's got 2 ledger lines on it. It's got a line across the note, cutting really across the note, and 1 note below it, 1 line below it. So when I show you a keyboard and it's got 2 or 3 octaves, I'm showing you from here to here, and sometimes to here, depending upon the size of the keyboard. I'm not showing you the low notes because the instruments can't play them. The beauty of a class like this is I can show it to you. Always when I took and taught lessons, I was teaching lessons on the woodwinds because I'm a woodwind specialist, but I always wanted to have a keyboard around, even a small one, so I could show them exactly on the keyboard where the notes were that they were playing and line them up on the staff so they could see it and know where it is on the keyboard. Now the flute, the regular flute, can get up to here. That's C above high C. This is C, this is high C. Low C, mid-range C, high, let's see, high C, but the flute can go an octave beyond. That's going to be C above high C. But the piano, only the piano can play this last octave. The flutes can't get any higher than that C, but that's a lot of notes. When you consider that's a 3-octave range from here down to here is a good 3-octave range. That's a very good range for an instrument to be able to play 3 octaves. Now the piano can play the last notes, the last notes from here to the end. If you can see that, from here whoops, to the end right here. Maybe I should move that a little, get that more in line with what you can see. I'm afraid it's going to fall off. Yeah, okay. Here's your C above high C is right here, and this is only piano. The other instruments can't reach it. They can't go that high. Even the flute, which is wonderful in playing high notes, they can't go that high. But it is so high that they don't even write music for it, but they have a code they use. When you get here, then they write 8VA, and when they write 8VA, it means play this lower octaves from here to here. Play it an octave higher. Instead of trying to write the notes, it would have lots and lots of ledger lines. Instead of doing that, what they do is write the 8VA, and it tells the piano to take this range here, right here, and play it an octave higher because they've got the keys to do it, but they don't write for it. When you get 5, 6, 7, 8 ledger lines, the music gets very hard to read. And so by using a symbol like that, they can read it a lot better. Now I bring this up to you because the recorders are from here to here. That's just what the recorders play. And we play a lot of music. So here's the low C, which is the same as the middle C, and you go up one octave, which is right here. This is going to be the mid-range C, and this is where it is on recorder music. On the staff, it's 3 spaces up. 1, 2, 3. And then this is a high range for the recorders, and this is going to be the high C right here. And this is where we can get as recorders and most woodwind instruments from here to here. Now that's really quite a bit. You say, well, that's only a section of the keyboard, and that's true. But you've got to remember that the keys are repeated. Like, for example, I'm going to take you down to, well, let's say we're down to this C here. I think you can see about that range. You've got this C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So what is this? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So what is this? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So you get those notes that repeat and repeat and repeat. They're just in different ranges. They're really the same notes. Now the fingerings on the instruments may be different because in order to get a higher pitch or a lower pitch, you have to use certain fingerings that make it possible for you to do so. With the piano, it's one finger, one note. You press down the note, you get it. But with the woodwind instrument, and somewhat with the brass, but basically with the woodwinds, you may be using several instruments to get one note. For example, several fingers to get one note. So for example, here's my D, my low D. That low D is going to be right here, where my finger is. It's going to be right beside that C. And this low D requires 7 fingers to play it. And then when we first started this class, I used to go over this all the time. B, A, G, F, E, D, with the thumb hole in the back covered, okay? So that is 7 fingers, including the thumb, that you have to have down just to play that one low D. This is why we can't do chords, because it takes too many fingers. With a chord, you can play 3 or 4 notes at the same time, but it's one finger, one note. So with a piano player, they may have one finger here, one finger here, one finger here, one finger here. They've got a chord because they can play them all at one time because they're only using one finger for a note. But when you get to a woodwind, 7 fingers. Now, an octave is 8 notes, and the bottom note and the top note is the same, except it's in a different range. So if I may as well show you this, because I'm not going to have time to do much else. Here, let's say this is a D. I'm going to be using this D. It's easier to finger than the C, so I'm using the D. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. 8 notes. This note, which is a high or mid-range D, is actually the same as D here, but it's at a higher range. So I can play now. It's kind of hard sometimes to get that high D because the fingering is different. I don't even have my thumb hole on, the finger over the thumb hole in the back. In order to get that D, I keep this middle finger on, and all the other fingers are off, totally off. Although I do have some balance because I can put my little finger down, I can put my thumb down. It's not covering a tone hole, but it helps to balance. My mouth helps to balance. So I'm not going to drop the instrument. When I get to an E, and that E is going to be right here, this is the E that I'm pointing to, 2 notes from the C, C, D, E. If I want a higher E, I simply half hole the hole in the back. I pull that down, and that half hole bounces me up an octave. The front of you don't notice it from the front because the fingers are down the same way for the low E or the high E. The fingers are down the same way. But in the back, I'm moving my thumb and I'm pulling it down about halfway, and that is called half-holing. I keep the tone hole covered but only halfway, and that bounces that up to an octave. So because of that, your fingerings will be repeated somewhat, depending upon the range that it is. It's not like you have separate fingerings for all of the notes, all of the 88 notes. Now the piano, they have to know what range they're in, but I also want woodwinds to know what range they're in. And it's this middle range from this middle or low C up to about here. This is where we are. The regular flutes, 1 octave higher, and the piano 1 octave higher, using that code 8VA, because what they're doing is they're playing from that C to the flutes will get from that C to that C, which is considered to be the C above high C. That range gets repeated at a higher level just by using the 8VA without creating any new notes with any more ledger lines. So I hope this gets comfortable for you to think of that, because what I really want you to be able to do, and I'm going to have to close it, I don't have time to work with this now, but I want you to understand where you are. Most teachers don't show you that. Most teachers will show you how to finger a note, how to play the note, what the note timing is like, what it's like and where you find it on a regular scale, you know, like a scale like this. A scale is simply notes that go up and down, that's all. And they go up and down step by step by step, sometimes half steps. But where do those notes fall? For us, they fall right in this C, right in this range of from C to C, low C to high C. And also that mid-range C. So there are some instruments that play only that one, like the flutophones will only play that 1 octave, let me see, tonettes, song flutes, they're only going to play this. Some of the smaller pan flutes, you know, play only that 1 octave range, but when you get to recorders, penny whistles, sasutos, and other instruments with a larger range, they will go up to here. So this is where we are, and this is what we're playing. And so when you wonder, you know, where are we on a keyboard? It sounds low to me. Is it high? But we don't know unless we take a look at the keyboard and find out. So I want you to know what the relative ranges of the instruments are, the ones that we're playing, and the woodwinds especially, since I am a specialist on the woodwinds because we can get quite a range. And where the notes are repeated, you really do have a lot of notes that you can play with. I know I arrange Handel's Messiah on a recorder, and I play it every year. And I play it on a recorder this size. And it's a simple instrument, but it can play a lot of music. The recorder is not a toy, it's a regular instrument. So we're kind of out of time, but I did want to show you those things, and we're going to go into music where I use the various signs, use the DC, use the DS, and I can show you exactly what that means and where we go with it, and review some of the things we've already learned. So we'll close it here. Please join me next time.